Well, good afternoon and welcome back to another Talk Tuesdays. This week I would like to just very quickly go over our trip up to Shetland last year. We spent a month, well we spent, as you know, 6 months on the road in the van, but we spent about 4 weeks up in Shetland, also covering Orkney and the Outer Hebrides, which I've already done a 2-part review on. Now I'm going to try to kind of condense this into no more than about 15 minutes, so apologies if I'm kind of breezing over things. Most of these images again are just going to be my little iPhone sketches and playing about with the iPhone. I'll throw up at the end of the vlog a couple of images from Shetland that I made with the main Fuji cameras. Suffice to say, Shetland is incredible, and in fact we had planned to be back there again this year, pandemic aside, but yeah, it's a wonderful place, really friendly locals, really set up for people traveling in their vans as well, incredible wildlife, and of course some wonderful landscapes. So let's jump over to the screen. So there's a couple of different ways that you can get to Shetland. Obviously you can fly there, but if you're planning on taking your own vehicle, you can either go from Aberdeen, and it's about a 12-hour crossing overnight, or as we did, we had already been on Orkney, and you can actually pick up that Aberdeen ferry that goes from Causden to Kirkwall, and then you can travel from Kirkwall up to Lerwick. It's about 8 hours. That was preferable for us. We were obviously travelling at the time with Guinness, our cat. This crossing can be notoriously choppy. Thankfully, both there and back, we got pretty smooth sailings. I don't know about you, but arriving in a new country always feels exciting. And while we had already been on Orkney, it kind of felt still quite close to Scotland mainland, whereas this seemed to be a whole world apart, and there was a great excitement as we approached dock on that morning. Just a bit of an admin one here. There's a lot of oil money in Shetland, and that means the road system is phenomenal, really not a single pothole, and the communications are fantastic as well. We obviously work on the road, so we're always looking for libraries, and this is the library in Kirkwall, and I think it has some of the best broadband I have ever seen on the road. It was like in 90 megabits up, so of course uploading vlogs and things was fantastic. A theme that kind of followed us around Shetland was the sort of har, the old sea mist coming in, and apparently this does happen quite a lot during the summer. So that's just something to be aware of. Now, of course, in some situations it lent itself to be a little bit atmospheric. In other cases you could barely see the hand in front of your face, and this wasn't just like a morning sea mist or an evening sea mist. This would roll in and be around for 3 or 4 days in various parts of the island. The whole island didn't get sort of hit. This is up at Sunbury Head, but just be aware again that if you're going to be going during the summer months, which of course a lot of people will do because of the daylight hours and things like that, be aware that you might be faced with some days where it's a bit of a pea souper. Now, this was obviously, I was there for mostly the landscapes, but you can't go to somewhere like Shetland without being in awe of the wildlife as well. And of course up at Sunbury Head on our first morning, we had some fantastic views of the Atlantic puffin. And of course, if any of you have ever been to some of the locations around the UK where you see puffins, you know they're very inquisitive, and that can afford some great image opportunities. Now this was taken, I think, with the 18-135, so it shows you that they were relatively close, and in fact up at Sunbury Head you could probably get away with even a 24-70 or something. But yeah, wonderful to see the Atlantic puffin on that first morning. Within a couple of days, or I think on the second day even, I started to think about a little bit about maybe starting a project. Now, this is going to be an ongoing project, and there's a lot of images that I won't be showing for obvious reasons. But I started to really look at the beaches and specifically the strand line. Strand line is obviously where the sea is actually coming up to sort of the water's edge at the high tide. And I don't know whether I just had never noticed it before, or whether it's something fantastic on Shetland, But the strand lines in Shetland were phenomenal, always producing some wonderful shapes, leaving bits of kelp. I've said this many times before, I am not someone who manufactures an image. This is how I found it, Gov. But just some wonderful shapes and patterns on the beaches. And as I say, this started me thinking about maybe having a bit of a project, looking at some of the different shapes and textures and things like that I found on the beaches in Shetland. And so that's what I did. And yes, some of them were just beautiful, almost reminding me a little bit of some Chinese writing or something like that. So this was something that I carried on doing throughout the whole month while I was on Shetland. And in fact, it's something that I've carried on even now. Obviously, we have a home base here right on the coast, so it's something that I'm always paying attention to as well when I'm out and about. And this is actually one of the first beaches that I walked along on that. I think, in fact, this was our first morning. We had actually just got our head down for a couple of hours and woke up and took a wander along this beach. Out here in the distance is actually Somber Head. So this is one of the first beaches that I started to really get an eye in for the Strandline project. One place that we went back to multiple times, and for obvious reasons, it's a beautiful area, was St Ninian's Isle. And this is an island that has got a causeway or a tombola that you can access. Well, you can access it, I think, during the summer months at low and at high tide. I think during the winter, probably only low tide. And it's a wonderful area to walk around. Lots of breeding tern colonies. And if you've ever been across a bunch of terns, you know that they don't take too kindly to people getting too close to their little nesting areas, so take cover. But again, fortunately, the first time that we were down at St Ninian's, the weather wasn't great. Again, very sort of overcast. But again, what I'm really sort of showing here is just some of the coastlines that are available on Shetland. Just absolutely beautiful and heaps of potential. So this is actually out on St Ninian's Isle itself, and as you can see, it's just a beautiful place. So this is actually where we parked up on a number of evenings, and in fact we were joined on a couple of occasions by other camper vans as well. And in fact we went back near the end of our trip, and at that point then there were a few static caravans that had showed up as well, where I think the locals kind of used this as a bit of a getaway. But you can see that this is the tombola out to St Ninian's Isle itself, a really fantastic place to explore. And there you go, there's our van parked up on a very calm day in Shetland. And in fact, that's one thing we find. The weather itself, now obviously go there during the winter, completely different kettle of fish, but we didn't get huge winds. It was actually a pretty sort of calm 4 weeks that we got there. So, but yeah, this was a beautiful place to explore. And in fact, here we have Nicola, the old Instagram red jacket. And this is again out on St Ninian. So you can see that with the right conditions, the coastline here, even just in this one area, you could probably spend weeks exploring. So another favourite location of ours for park-ups was up at Ashness, the Ashness Cliffs. I'll obviously put all of these, or I'll have been putting all of these on a little map. This was fantastic. Now again, this wouldn't be somewhere that I would recommend parking up on any kind of windy days. I think this place, Ashness, does get significantly impacted by strong winds. But again, it was just a beautiful place to explore. Just down from Ashness, you actually have what's called the Drongs, which are a bunch of sea stacks sticking up just off the coastline. So this actually became our little routine. There was also a fantastic little cafe close to the Drongs, so we would park up overnight up at Ashness and then come down to the cafe. They allowed you to use their facilities for a small donation. They had laundrette, they had showers, and obviously they had phenomenal coffee. And then this was pretty much the view from outside of the cafe. So I did spend a bit of time looking at capturing the Drongs, and I'll throw up a couple of those, or at least one of those images at the end of this vlog. But again, beautiful place to explore. And of course, why not have another one of those Instagram-esque images. This was actually taken, posted up on our travelling Instagram, the Traveller's Cookbook, for those of you who are interested. Up at Ashness, it was actually the cricket, I want to say the one day cricket World Cup final. That one that England won on like the golden over or whatever it's called, super over. This was us trying to get TV reception, which was severely lacking. Not even when I asked Nicola to go outside and hold on to the aerial. England won though. We listened to it on the radio. And this is just another one of those scenes from Ashness. Another area that we went down to, and this was an area that I really wanted to explore, was Mukaluru. Unfortunately, we had another pretty heavy sea mist roll in, but this is one place that I would love to go back to. The cliffs are just phenomenal, and obviously full of various seabirds as well. But unfortunately, as I say, just a little bit too much sea mist coming in. I think there's one or two images at the end of the vlog from this area. So back up again to Ashness, and we started to see a little bit of light. And as you can see, it's a pretty incredible place. And in fact, I had managed to borrow, I was able to join the library system temporarily, and they allowed you to obviously borrow books. And I was able to borrow a Joe Cornish book, Coast, and he actually had some images. I didn't realise at the time from Ashness, some really lovely images from there. But it's a beautiful place. You got to keep the old van images in there as well. Just some lovely reflections. But yeah, so a little bit of that clearing mist and a little bit of light just starting to come through. But it's an incredible place, really incredible. And so you see then once the sea mist clears, you actually do get a little bit of light. Yeah, beautiful. I can almost, this just transports. I love that when an image does that. It just transports you back to the very moment. And I can just, this was an evening, and it was just, you could see the sea mist had pretty much cleared, and it was just illuminating the beautiful colours and textures in the in the rock. And of course all around you've got the sights and sounds and smells of thousands of seabirds. Just beautiful. Yeah, lovely. Love it. So one of the things I love about travelling around the Scottish Highlands is ferry hopping. And on this particular day, we hopped across from Shetland mainland onto Yale, and then drove straight across Yale to get up to Unst. This was just one of the little ferries, and there's just again something quite sort of exciting about that, sort of driving on board these sort of ferries, very regular, and lots of flexibility. And the whole reason for heading up to Unst was obviously to visit Hermanus, the nature reserve. Now at the time the visitor centre, and I'm pretty sure it's been the same this year as well, but the visitor centre was closed, but it was still a fantastic place to visit, right at the very top of Shetland. And as you can see, the old sea mist is well and truly in operation here. Now we went up there to obviously see the Greenland Colony, and it was incredible, absolutely incredible. Now the first day we went up there, it was pretty, as you can see, but the first thing that hits you is the smell. I mean, you're talking here, I don't know, 20,000 pairs or something like that. It's just insane. The noise, the smell, the sight, just fantastic. And so we just hung around here for a good couple of hours, just watching the gannets coming in and going. If wildflowers are your thing, then Shetland has got an abundance of them as well. This is again up in Unst. I think this is at Norwich. Just beautiful wildflowers, just carpeting field after field after field. And again, this is just one of the little coastlines on Unst, at Norwich. And we actually ended up, what a place to live, right there. Yeah, I think I'd want to live there rather, maybe just take them both on. Just beautiful though. And again, anywhere where you pointed your camera, there was just something to see. We took a bit of a wander up on one of the paths, and again, this is in Unst in Norwich, and just a completely sort of just random little path up. Just following the coastline round, you're just going to come across so many incredible sights and sounds. Just beautiful. There's even a open nature sort of plunge pool or something here. I wonder, did we, after our little escapades in the Outer Hebrides? Well, there was no photographic evidence this time around, at least. Yeah, so this is still up at Norwich, and again, these are taken probably 10 minutes apart. You can see how quickly that sea mist rolls in and kind of just makes everything a little bit more sort of difficult to photograph, but still beautiful to see. So back up to Hermanus, and we walked beyond or kept walking in one of the paths, because of course you can actually head up to the very northern point and go visit Mukaluru. Well, you can at least see Mukaluru, which is the most northerly lighthouse out at this area. Now we decided not to do the full walk, because obviously we were there to really see the Galax as well. But again, just this area, I mean, the landscape is incredible, pretty treacherous in places. And what I love to see, no fences, no kind of warning signs, just be sensible, but also we're not going to tell you what to do. But yeah, just incredible, and I would love to have got up here with some sort of better conditions. Although I did quite like the light and how it almost looks almost like I don't know, it's been wrapped up or something, very velvety. But yeah, just beautiful. And yeah, this is a little bit of light on those cliff faces. You just sort of wander along. You can see the path here, and if you keep following this path, you'll head on out to you'll pass a couple more Greenland colonies, and you'll then come across Mukaluru. But of course we came to see the Galax, and on this particular evening, probably one of my top 3 wildlife experiences in my life, bar none. The mist cleared to the point where you could see the Galax below. Gorgeous sidelining coming in of that setting sun, and we were all alone. There was no one else with us. It was just us sitting watching the Galax. It was incredible. I really wish this had, I'm sure there's a vlog out there somewhere with it. This needs smell-o-vision and audio. It was incredible, absolutely incredible. And then obviously we wandered back down again. This is, I believe, is it an observatory? I think it's an observatory. But just I quite liked how the sea mist was rolling back in again as we made our way back down to the van. But again, it's just such an incredible landscape. And there's our van. This is where we parked up for a few nights on Unst, which is in the car park at the nature reserve. And of course, most of the visitors head off back to their sort of own places. In fact, quite a lot of people will get the ferry across to Unst, go to Hermanus, and then get the ferry back down either to Yale or to the mainland. But yeah, wonderful experience. So I think we're getting very close to the 20-minute mark, so time to wind things up a little bit. Very changeable landscapes across Shetland. This is actually over in Brecon Sands, and just really to show you that it's not all about incredible sea cliffs and sea stacks and things like that, but nonetheless this beach was beautiful from a beach patterns perspective, and just a little bit of weather moving off there in the distance. Single track roads, as I said earlier. If anyone has ever driven the North Coast 500, it's pothole central. No potholes on the roads in Shetland. They were a joy to drive down. Again, beautiful evening. We actually got a cracking weekend, sort of Friday through Monday, Tuesday. Some of the warmest weather actually in the whole of the UK was up on Shetland. And this is just at the beginning of that weekend, back down at St Ninian's Isle. Lovely just to sit and watch the light develop. Another favourite place of ours to park the van for a couple of evenings was at the little launch point where you get the ferry across over to Musa, where I believe it's the tallest, biggest, widest something broch in the whole of the UK, maybe something. Maybe I'll put up down there what it is. Nicola went across, she said it was very impressive little ferry, but it was a beautiful place to sort of sit, have an evening there, watch a little bit of the local wildlife, including the local otter population. Just beautiful. As I say, yeah, this is down at the little Ferry Launch port where you go down to Ferry Launch. I'd love to visit Ferry Launch, but I think I would take my chances in the plane that leaves from Sunborough rather than the little ferry, which apparently even on a very calm day can be pretty choppy, but it was a beautiful spell of weather that we actually got in, sort of taking away all of that sea mist. Just stunning. We stayed here at the beginning of our trip whenever the Tern colony was in full effect, and it was really loud and noisy, and it was incredible actually just how peaceful it was. Once we went back a few weeks later, and most of the terns had obviously departed that particular area. Just up from Sunbury Head, there is a bit of a sciencey thing going on where the elements in the rocks, and depending on I think the time of year, will actually create a red pool, red sort of maroon pool. Now, as you can see, not very conducive to landscape photography, very bright blue skies, but again, this whole area is just stunning, and it actually reminds me a little bit of the walk out to Malin Head. Very similar sort of rock formations and coastline as you make your way out to that red pool, but again, you know, just imagine some beautiful light down here. It's just, yeah, really want to go back. Beautiful place. On that weekend we also discovered a place called Spiggy, and probably the best beach patterns I have seen in my life. Just stunning, absolutely beautiful, and of course with it being a really sort of strong sunshine day, perfect for black and white. And this is actually the coastline around Spiggy as well. As I said, we got some cracking conditions for 3 or 4 days, some beautiful sunsets, and this is us actually parked up again at St Ninian, where we met up with friends actually who were also visiting Shetland and had a very enjoyable evening, not really making many images, sitting having a cold beer and just watching the beautiful sunset, which kind of got more intense as the evening went on, but it was beautiful. Just one of our many little park-up sites, just in one of the little ferry ports, and again, I think a lot of people who visit Shetland either as a cruise passenger, and so they stay on the mainland, so you've got this whole other area of Shetland that just generally is, you know, just there to be explored, just beautiful. And this is just again one of the little Ferry Launch ports that we parked up at overnight. And a wonderful picture of me just to finish. We didn't get any midgie at all across the whole of Shetland, apart from this one night when I went back to photograph the drongs, and we actually for the first time got some lovely light. I hadn't brought any midge repellent with me. I hadn't brought my head net with me. So this is what we ended up with. But yeah, still a beautiful evening. So there you go. There's my little whistle-stop tour of Shetland, the Shetland Isles. Highly recommend getting yourself up there. Not the easiest to get to, especially if you're going to be taking your own vehicle. But certainly it's somewhere that we would really love to go back and visit. I will, I think I've linked already to a couple of our travel vlogs, but after this year I'll also put up a handful of images that I also took with the main camera. I'm quite behind, over a year behind with some of my processing, so there's even some that haven't been published yet, but I'll put up a handful just to let you get a better idea of what the place looks like. But yeah, highly recommended. Right, don't want to take up any more of your time. I shall see you on Friday when we are somewhere along the Causeway Coast. As always guys, thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, take care. Bye bye. Oh, Shetland teas. Oh my goodness, Shetland teas. Cake, as much cake as you can eat. Oh. Google it.